Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. Just wanted to take that live shot there of Ski Bowl. Pretty majestic looking up there on that mountain right now. So anybody that's getting up there, maybe some late season skiing, good for you. But thank you for joining us here. This is Fox 12 Now. We live stream here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, covering a wide range of topics. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and our apps. So definitely recommend downloading that Fox 12 Oregon app. A great way to catch up with this program and everything else that we do here at the station. One topic, though, that we're covering today is, as you can see there right on the screen, $14 million in funding secured for Oregon projects. These are in District 6. And this is federal funding that was secured by Representative Andrea Salinas. And we spoke to her just a couple of days ago, and we're going to be running that interview here during this segment. Just for reference, District 6 covers Polk County, Yamhill County, Washington County, Marion County, or parts of Marion County, parts of Washington, and parts of Clackamas. So parts of those three. But it also encompasses Salem, Oregon. And that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing here at the top of this. Is part of this $14 million in funding went towards renovating the Salem Airport. It's going to be applied to that. We spoke to the mayor of Salem last week, so you can go check out that interview as well for more details. But we did discuss this funding and some of the other projects that are going to be funded by this $14 million that was secured for these federal grants. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here it is, Representative Andrea Salinas talking about the $14 million. Representative, thank you, as always, for joining us here on Fox 12 Now. And we're taking a look at some of this funding that you secured for the 6th District, $14 million, over $14 million, and a number of projects being a part of that. But what I wanted to focus on here at the beginning is talking about the Salem Airport and just transit in general in that area. Can you tell us why this was such an important initiative for you to get that funding for the airport?
Yeah. So just to set things up a little bit, so folks who don't know maybe from home how, the process of Congress works, and sometimes we don't even know, but after months of negotiations, I was able to deliver $14 million for community projects, and this was across the district. And it was everything from needed improvements to our roads, to fixing water infrastructure, to expanding access to rural broadband and public transportation. And these are all things that I think would make life better for everyone in the Willamette Valley. And that's what I was hearing from my local elected leaders. So I spent a lot of last week delivering this funding in person and meeting with those elected officials and community organizations, because they were really the ones to bring these projects forward. And I wanted to see firsthand how this funding will be put to good use. But in terms of the commercial airlines, we're now seeing, after 15 years, commercial flights out of Salem. So it's critical that we make sure to ensure airport infrastructure is up to date and truly equipped to handle a return of passenger travel. So we got $850,000 from the federal government that I was able to secure. So the airport will be able to make important upgrades to the terminal, safety improvements to the terminal, making sure that they can monitor baggage and all of that kind of stuff. So it will ultimately encourage more travelers and businesses to come to the Willamette Valley. I'm also hoping it will relieve a little bit of congestion for those folks who, felt the need to go up to Portland or down to Eugene. So having airport transportation in Salem, I think, is so important. And again, it'll grow businesses as well as travelers to our area. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and to speak to that end too, talking about the economic impact of that, I know one of the things that this could also help out with is tourism to the area, making it easier to be accessible, I guess, for everybody who wants to go to some wineries or go to different things that the Salem area has to offer. So do you have an idea of how that's going to impact that as far as economically for the region?
So I don't have economic impact numbers, but I know about 15 years ago when I was, I don't know, I think, well, when we did have air travel out of Salem, I was still working for Congresswoman Darlene Hooley before it shut down. And so I know that we definitely lost a lot of economic activity, but I don't have that quantified for you.
But nonetheless, yeah, it does seem like this will certainly be a boon to the area, I would imagine, to that region.
Absolutely.
With all of those things. And now looking at, going back to what you said there at the beginning, $14 million in funding and all of these organizations. So when you're going through the process of deciding, what you're applying for, trying to get those funds, what is going through your mind, and what is your process for deciding, who ends up receiving the funds?
I'm glad you asked that, because we actually have different sideboards that are handed down from the majority, so the Republicans in the House, who basically give us some parameters. We can only request up to 15 projects, and we got far more for the FY24 fiscal year. We can, there's certain like labor, health and human services. So anything that comes out of those agencies, we could not request those things. So we really focused a lot on things that would address, I think, quality of life, right? And so transportation is a big one. And that's why I put in a request for the South Salem Transit Center as well. We secured about $500,000 for that. And when it's built, we took a little look at that last week, but when it's built, it will be a mobility hub. And so local and regional bus routes will have paratransit vehicles, some of those shorter route neighborhood circulators, bike and scooter share stations. So I'm really thinking, like, what are the infrastructure needs? What are the housing needs? What are the transportation needs that can make our communities more livable? And that is really kind of what those were kind of the three buckets that we focused in on, which is why you saw so much around transportations, roads, and water infrastructure.
Yeah, I definitely saw that for Independence and Tigard, a couple of that I noticed there as far as a bridge, new water lines, and different things
Right.
For both of those cities to improve that. Something else when it comes to infrastructure and transportation, you mentioned, broadband access and communication, certainly something that's just as important. And I noticed that there was $1 million secured for Sherwood to help, I guess, beef up their broadband access and beef up that. So can you talk to us just about that, about how important that funding is to increase broadband access?
Yeah, this was a really big project for Sherwood. And you would think that, some of our towns that feel like they're still right within, either just getting into the exurban area, but still part of the Portland metro area in some cases, would have better broadband infrastructure. Well, Sherwood is one of those areas that does not. And so making sure that all of our community members have access to broadband, because in this day and age, it is so important to be able to access sometimes healthcare. Sometimes accessing your work online is critical, to be able to do that from your home. So many other pieces of the internet and broadband are necessary for just, regular daily life. And so, yeah, we were able to fulfill a request to the city of Sherwood to make sure that they got some funding for broadband access. And so, yeah, and that's something that like I said, we've been working on. We've been working on trying to redo the maps that were coming down from, and there's different broadband maps that show how much broadband and how much support they were getting from the federal government. So we've been working on this for a number of years, but obviously more recently, we did get this exciting funding for them.
Do you think in the future that there will be more federal funding to help out other towns, like Sherwood, other places that don't have that kind of access?
Absolutely. In fact, we are already entering the fiscal year 25 appropriations process. Our fiscal year ends at the end of September, and then October 1st is the start of the new year. So clearly, we should already have been thinking about that actually as of October 1st, the FY25 appropriations. It took us a little while to get there. We finally passed it back in March. But yeah, so we are now thinking about that. And I think our deadline is sometime this week. And so I've been working with all of my local jurisdictions to make sure that we are ready. And so we're submitting, I think the deadline is tomorrow or sometime this week. So we will be submitting some additional requests for FY25 and hoping to see some more good projects come out of this.
One other project I did want to mention to you was in Grand Ronde. I know there was some funding for that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that funding and what that's going for?
Yeah, so this is what I would consider some of those, quality of life issues. Grand Ron got some dollars to help, excuse me, with a community center and some community services, including some healthcare access. So it's kind of a multiple purpose type of facility. They'll have some areas that, can serve as instruction for better cooking for those who have diabetes. And we know many in the Grand Ronde tribe, suffer from diabetes, but also, again, a health center. So for folks in the community, they can go and receive low level care of healthcare as well.
Looking at this 14 million that you have, and you've, as you mentioned, you've been able to go out and actually deliver some of those funds. What's the feedback been like from the community so far receiving those funds? And then maybe looking forward, what are some other initiatives that you'd like to maybe fund for this next bill?
Yeah, so people are really, I mean, I have had some folks who have literally cried. The city of Carlton is a town that, doesn't have a lot of resources. It's really expensive to get any kind of wastewater or drinking water upgrades to replace pipes because even though they're just, again, right outside of Portland, right, it gets rural very fast. And the number of ratepayers when a project comes online, first of all, the cost is the same as it would be in Portland. And so that cost, though, has to be spread over fewer ratepayers, far fewer than what you would see maybe in a project in Portland to do the same kind of project. And so to get federal funding is incredibly helpful to just even deliver clean drinking water, right? Or to prevent sewage overflows into the local creeks. So I have had a lot of great conversations. People have been incredibly grateful and supportive, and they should be. They're the ones who brought these projects forward. I've just facilitated making and fighting for these dollars for our communities.
When it comes to those communities, that thankfully, Carlton's getting that, but the other communities out there that maybe didn't get funding this time, what is something that they can do or what should they be doing to try to put their initiatives forward to maybe get funding for this next one?
Well, I have had an amazing team on the ground reaching out to folks. And so we have definitely been reaching out to different communities who did, like, as you said, who may not have gotten funding this last round to encourage them. There are certain projects that the federal government does like to fund over other projects. And like I mentioned, there's some sideboards where we can't actually ask for things in the Labor, Health and Human Services departments. I think nonprofits are excluded from some different pieces of funding, that sort of thing. But we've had a number of different jurisdictions and towns who did not get supported this last time. I've encouraged them. I've been meeting with them and making sure that they know the process. And so they've all, I think, pretty much been in touch with my office. But if they haven't, they should go to salinas.house.gov, look at our website, call our office as soon as possible. Because like I said, these projects are due this week to the Appropriations Committee.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you very much, for talking about this, and the $14 million obviously going to help out a lot of people there in District 6 and make some improvements. Something else I would just want to bring up, because this is certainly happening nationally, internationally, and locally, and I'm talking about the protests that are going on at colleges and universities around the country in association with the war in Gaza. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. How do you feel about these students and I guess other people who are protesting on these campuses and some of the reaction that's happened because of that?
I absolutely support the First Amendment. I support free speech, but you have to remain within the law. You cannot break the law. So reports of vandalism and destruction of property are wholly unacceptable. And I'm concerned actually about rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, not just on our college campuses either. We're seeing it everywhere in our communities. And the bottom line is that we have to protect all students.
Well, Congressman, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that. And it's always great to talk to you, and congratulations on this funding, and good luck getting all that in here for the next week or so to submit all your other bills.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. So just to clarify too, so this interview was from a couple of days ago. So when I had asked that question just about her thoughts on the protests, just to know, that was 2 days ago. So since the protests have been going on and what's happened down at the library. But thank you to Congresswoman Salinas for joining us there for that segment. Coming up here on Fox 12 Now, though, we are going to be continuing discussion about the protests at Portland State, including talking about the de-escalation tactics that were used both by the police and by the protesters that prevented some of the violence that we've seen in other places. So we're going to discuss that with a sociology professor and an expert in this topic. That's coming up at 1:30 p.m. And whatever platform you're on, you can join me right back here. So whether that's Facebook or YouTube or the website or the apps, again, I always recommend downloading the Fox 12 Oregon app. Great way to keep track of this and the segments that we have and the discussions that we get to have, and you can watch those afterward and everything else that we do here with Fox 12 Oregon. But we'll pause for right now. We'll reset. We'll be back at 1:30. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.